The following podcast is being brought to you by the Defy Life Podcast Network.
Welcome to Aftergate, powered by the Defy Life Network.
Are y'all ready?
Aftergate is a podcast series highlighting Colgate alumni of color in their professional endeavors aftergate.
Are y'all ready?
Aftergate is hosted by Alvin Glimpf, aka Al, and Herman Dubois, aka Jerry.
Are y'all ready?
We are doing Aftergate because Colgate University has produced innovators who have changed the world every day, yet many alumni of color and the mainstream Colgate community are unaware of the amazing accomplishments of alums of color.
Are y'all ready? Welcome. This is Alvin Glimpf, and I am honored to be one of the co-hosts of Aftergate. This is season 2, and we are about to do another amazing episode. So I'm glad to be here, and I'll jump right in and introduce my co-host, Mr. Herman Dubois. My brother, how are you doing?
What's up? All is gravy.
Good.
Rocking the Aftergate merch. Okay,
I
which
see you.
is which is a rare thing because we got our first cold front for 2023 down here in Miami at 65 degrees, and so
Stop
it's
playing. 65 degrees.
right now. Perfect hoodie weather. So I get to pull out the one or two hoodies I got and enjoy it. But yeah, all is well here, brother. All is well.
I feel like you need to do air quotes when you talk about 65 degrees and cold. Like I just feel like something was missing.
Right.
Something was missing there.
Yeah. Well, for Miami, every year we get one little, and this I wouldn't even say this is it because we'll get like one or two. It's a little early, being that we're only in October, but there have been times, it's dropped to 35, 40, for like a weekend, and everybody bugs out, and then the lizards unthaw and fall out the trees, and everybody realizes they come back to life, and life goes on. It's paradise again. I've done December 31st, New Year's Eve in 88-degree beach weather. So,
okay, so now you're showing off.
No. What I'm saying is that you take this because you don't give the little cold front it. Mother Nature gets it because she can do what she wants. But the rest of the year is paradise. So why complain?
That would be a humble brag, ladies and gentlemen. And so we're gonna keep it moving on that. But real talk, it's good to hear your voice. Good that things are going well, even with the blizzard weather conditions that y'all are dealing with down in Miami.
Brr.
But all is good here, man. And actually, tomorrow we are doing an event here in Atlanta for Alumni of Color.
Word on the street.
Word on the street, October 20th. So shout out to Veronica up there making it happen. We got 4 events going on, one in New York, one in Chicago. One in New York, one in DC, one in LA and Atlanta. So big ups to her. This is the second year we're doing it. Really appreciate all the energy and engagement that she's leading and helping us through that Alumni of Color organization. So shout out to that. Looking forward to that tomorrow. But let me remind people, Aftergate is a weekly podcast where we are interviewing alumni of color from Colgate to highlight their accomplishments after they've graduated. So our whole focus is about amplifying these amazing accomplishments, amazing alumni. And that's what we got going on tonight. Can I get your blessing to invite our guests into the room for this podcast this week?
Absolutely. Let's open the doors up and be blessed by her journey.
Let's go. So please, podcast, universe, Aftergate family listeners, the one, the only, Minnie Roman, class of 1986.
Word up.
Thank you, gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. And 65, we have 46 today or 42.
Where is we? Where are we calling
New
it?
York.
Where in New York you at?
I'm in Westchester County, so
Okay.
New Rochelle.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
As
I'm from the Bronx, so I know it.
right, I was born and raised in the Bronx, so
Hmm.
and
Oh,
now I'm here in New Rochelle,
Yeah. Okay. Oh,
but I'm not a
45.
Yankee fan.
Ooh.
wow,
Ooh, Mets fan?
wow. And as they play tonight in the playoffs.
Yes,
Right,
as they
right,
play
right,
tonight.
right,
I'll
right.
root for them because I'm a true New Yorker, but
Absolutely. That's how I feel about when the Mets come down and play the Marlins. I might maybe go to the game and only to support my New York brethren, but
Uh,
as soon as the game's over, I say, okay, it's over. Support's
good.
gone.
we got some fond memories of going to playoff games when you lived down here in Atlanta. The Yankees
Oh yeah,
coming into the Braves World Series. Those were some fun days. Fun days.
Hmm.
absolutely. Um, well,
So,
let's. I was gonna ask you, Al, because I don't have a recollection of a.
yeah. So, one of the things we start off, we always like to give some context for our listeners. How have our paths crossed in the past, right? So,
If they
give
if
us
they've crossed.
if they have crossed in the past. And so, as I was thinking, like, must my first recollection, Minnie, I kind of feel like we've I've heard your name, seen you as an alum at some point years ago. But honestly, the what comes to mind, as in what really comes to mind, is through the COVID pandemic and you being one who was on one of the Zoom calls and was just talking about your experience. And I think that's really where I identified your legacy, your experience on that campus as a standout. And so as we've interacted really since those memories of the Zoom call, as I've been really intent, I'm like, oh yeah, we got to get her story on here. Is because not only as I recollect, oh yeah, she did some stuff and had an amazing story, but like so many of these stories, one, I I know you've done some amazing things after Colgate that I'm looking forward to hearing. But I don't know kind of your story before Colgate. And so that's a lot of what this is about. Why I'm excited to hear how did she become that student and then kind of hearing how you became the amazing woman you are now. So looking
Okay.
forward to doing that.
Well, thank you. So I know that I've gone through some of the podcasts and looked and listened to them. One that stood out was Angel Kelly. So I know you guys are very fond and know Angel Kelly personally.
Yes.
So I was the USB, the University Scholars Program.
Oh, US, yeah.
I was the RA that summer that they were freshmen. So it was,
Mm.
you talked about David Crittenton,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that was
Mm-hmm.
my baby boy. Ruth Chape was my
yeah.
other little girl.
Mm.
Angel Kelly, James Groom.
Okay.
Mm.
So all of those were my son. I was a senior, they were freshmen. We all were together all the time. I took care of them, I babied them, everything that I needed to do to make sure that they would be successful once I left.
I feel like
Um,
this is why I love Aftergate, because there are often times where we can make direct connections to people who are impactful in our lives and
Mhm.
they were impactful in those people's lives. So I feel like both of us, based on the names that you mentioned, owe you a debt of gratitude because you taking care of them allowed them to take care of us.
Mhm.
yes.
Mhm.
And I was so happy when I heard that.
And the name, every name you mentioned,
Everyone.
I can say, and I think I speak for Al as well. Were not only instrumental, sort of, while at Colgate, but still connected in some form or fashion with them in different ways now. And that doesn't happen with everybody. It happens with some folk. And for it to be the same folk that you had a chance of touching their lives, I think it just lends to the legacy of greatness that I think
Yeah.
oftentimes is under highlighted. When we have these interviews and we talk to everybody, always references someone, whether it was a formal situation like an RA role or a just an upperclassman that kind of showed them the ropes, to even the relationships, the love stories that we talk about, the Colgate couples that in many ways were inspirational. Ruth is the madrina of my daughter.
Wow. Ruth,
So
I mean, between David and Ruth, I loved them while they were at Colgate. I know they're
yeah,
now
yeah,
in their separate
yeah,
families.
yeah,
I
yeah.
I've spoken to Ruth on Facebook and stuff, and because she was during the pandemic, she was at one of the things that we had and one of the Zooms, and we, you know, it was like, oh my God, it was so wonderful. We messaged each other and everything. David, I've never, if you guys can tell David I said hello, or tell
I
him
will.
contact me,
I
share him
will.
my information.
I
I
will.
mean, David was
Mhm.
unbelievable. James and I were very, very, very close, inseparable, to the point where my father painted his apartment when he moved into his apartment in New York City. So,
Nice.
and then Angel was always Michelle Spikes,
Yeah.
Tony
Oh,
Spikes.
wow.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we were there.
You had the
And
squad.
then if I go back and think about legacies, so I know you also did Eric Bowen.
Bowen, yes. Well, I'll see him
So
tomorrow.
right. So Eric Bowen was the 85, 84, 85. And
Mhm.
so they were the ones that started Harlem Renaissance. And
Correct.
so then we were in Harlem Renaissance and they started We Funk. And so we had the We Funk parties, you know, and the whole Black Student Union. I was the president of Unidad, what was called Unidad at the time.
Yeah.
So it all comes out. I mean, seeing Nacio Giles at reunion, and prior to that when they did the Men of March, and I saw him, it was like seeing a god. It was like, oh my God, this man that I owe so much to, I owe him being at Colgate. And so all of those things just move on and show us. I had the privilege. I knew Pascal Kabamba at Colgate. He was also the class of 85. We had the privilege of working together in the future for the same organization. Okay. And then what would that be, that I live in New Rochelle, they live right outside of New Rochelle, and his wife teaches at
St.
Iona
John's.
College. Well, she was at Iona before, right down the road from me. And so my son was a student at Iona, and she was in charge of graduation when I'm there. And then my wife is a chiropractor, and they're patients of my wife's. So
it's
the
only
Colgate just goes and intermingles and all over the place with us. And it's like, wow.
so I think
it's the beauty of it.
as we talk about just things happen as they're supposed to happen, as they meant to be, it has taken some rescheduling with you for you to have this interview today. But coincidentally, or like Jerry says, there are no coincidences. Episode before you is Teresa Delgado, who we had to rearrange and book and rebook, and then she happened to be available, and then bam, then you're next. And again, so everything happens the way it's supposed to happen.
And let's add an exclamation to that, because this slot was actually already reserved by another AOC person that we've been trying to get on for a while. We've had some prior scheduled, they've canceled, and then contacted us that they canceled tonight because I think their son had some major event at school, and she was apologetic, but said, hey, she said, I will reschedule. And then that opened up the slot for you. So tonight was your night from jump.
And then we just happened to be on a Zoom call, and you are like, hey, Alvin, just want to let you know, I know I'm supposed to be on Aftergate, my bad. And I'm like, oh, no worries, because 2 days ago, someone canceled and there's a slot. Would you be interested? And you was like, let's do it. So
let's you know what? I made sure nothing was going on today.
Awesome. So let's start from the beginning.
Okay.
So you graduate in 1986 from Colgate, which means you graduate from high school, 1982. What high school, first of all?
I went to Herbert H. Lehman High School in the Bronx.
Lehman High.
Okay. So
you went to Lehman High?
Oh
No, he's just pro
no.
anything Bronx.
Anything Bronx. But
Anything to Bronx.
Several of my family members graduated from Lehman College. So, and then Lehman High School, you know, I know about them a little bit. I had some stomping grounds over there.
All right. So take us back to that time. What's happening that you remember in the early 80s? What's your life like? Give us a sense of the world for you, or anything in the world globally that you remember, to help folks understand what the life is like for you before you get into Colgate.
Okay, so I'm in high school. I went to Catholic elementary school. I begged my parents not to send my mother, not to send me as a single mother. I said, do not send me to Catholic high school. I will just not do. She said, go where you want to go. I said, okay, Lehman. That's where we were actually zoned for, because it was zoning back then. We're in Reaganomics. During that time, we just got out of the Shah of Iran had just let the hostages go. Carter loses the election in 1980. Other things. So let me just give you a little background on myself. So born and raised in the Bronx. I was first generation born here. My mother and my grandparents, all from Puerto Rico, came here. My grandmother was an entrepreneur, and had what I like to call, which she inspired me to go to college and not be a part of this life, but she had a sweatshop. So we know she was part of that, the garment industry, and the Puerto Rican women that went, but she happened to own her own place. My grandmother, being a very fair Puerto Rican woman, was blonde, green eyes. So they came to the South Bronx. We then moved to Casa Hill. That's right. The Jenny on the block, Casa Hill. That same exact way, but Minnie was on the block first.
Right.
So we get to Casa Hill. It's 1965. I'm 3 years old, 2.5 years old. My brother's a year old. My other brother would come 8 years later. And we move into an area where it's predominantly Italian and Irish. We're the only Hispanics for miles. And during that time, until we get all the way to 1982, I had already experienced what it was, the racism, but I did not know how to put it into that type of a perspective. So, of course, being called a spick for the first time by the kid down the block, and going home and saying, Mom, what's a spick? Well, you know what that was. So all those things would just be around having my uncle's brand new car painted a different color because we were Puerto Rican. So all of those things played. We would never, I was saying that to someone today, my grandmother forbid us to sit on the stoop or be stoop sitters, which was a common thing in the Bronx, but we were not allowed to do that. So we go to Catholic school. We're fast forward to the 80s. I'm in a predominantly white school. Lehman is in Throgs Neck. So everyone's Italian. So this is what I'm always have in front of me, that I'm not with a lot of my own, but I had a privileged, I can say, childhood where my father's parents, my parents were divorced when I was 2 years old. My father's parents always took us to Puerto Rico to know our roots. So I spent every summer from the day I was 5 to the day I was 18 in Puerto Rico. School ended, and you went to Puerto Rico and you came back.
Period.
So now,
okay, so you didn't spend no summers in New York as a child.
I know nothing about the blackout in New York.
Right.
I know nothing about the summers. I knew how to ride bike, swim, do all the water sports.
Be in the campo.
Everything that you could think of. No, we were actually in the city in Puerto Rico.
Okay.
We were in Rio Piedra and Cabo Rojo. So Cabo Rojo was the campo. Okay. Right. And over there we lived a life. My brother and I would go every single summer. Now we get to 1980s. And so I do remember seeing Richard Nixon do his whole Watergate and resign from his position as president in Puerto Rico. So I was in Puerto Rico when that occurred. now we're in, we had 76, we elect Jimmy Carter, Mr. Peanut Man. We loved him. If you were a Democrat, you hated him. Yeah, it was mixed emotions with Jimmy Carter. We get 80s. Okay, once again, the history always repeats itself. So we get this actor who's running for office. He wins, and now we got a lot of things going on. I'm in a school that's predominantly white. We probably have about, I'd say, 35% Hispanic, African American. There were so many other things that were happening. You knew that teachers probably weren't too receptive to you. You didn't have that many Black and Hispanic kids in your class. But you're trying to go out there and do your thing and be the student that you want to be, and you want to be successful. So I did. 1981. 1980, 1981 changes my life. There was a problem, and we were walking. I was very nerdy. I'm walking to the cafeteria. Some guy pushes me, doesn't realize that he's pushing a girl, starts to hit me. His girlfriend says, "You're hitting a girl. What are you doing?" They take me upstairs. He hit me in the face a couple of times, whatever it was. They send in a counselor to see me. The counselor's name, you want to know? Jeanette Burgos. Jeanette Burgos changes my life. Like I said, I was in the Upward Bound programs, talent search program. These programs were geared for students in the Bronx, lower income students that were going to that had potential to go in college, but not to just a regular college, to colleges that that were at the top of their game. Jeanette tells me she went to Colgate and she's taking a trip with a group of students to Colgate. I'm only a sophomore, but I'm going on this trip. I go on the trip. I fall in love.
Wow.
I fall in love. I'm like, I gotta go to Colgate. I gotta go to Colgate. I loved it. You know how it is. You go up that sub-fried summer and weekend, and you're having a good time, and you don't know anything about what's gonna happen with the books and everything, but you're going up there. So I went. I decided, I've got to kick ass in all these classes. I've got to make sure that I'm going to Colgate. Senior year, when you're applying, I was in a biomed program that had me going to school at Mount Sinai because I was going to be a doctor. That's what I was going to be.
Was that the Macy Medical Professor Program?
That was the Seth program at Mount Sinai.
Okay.
So I go. It was a great year, but there was a counselor there, a man, no offense, white, who said, "Oh, I was applying to Cornell, to Colgate, Binghamton, all the high-end schools, Ithaca." He says, "Oh no, you got to apply to some city schools." I said, "No, I'm not staying in the city. I'm sorry. Oh, those have to be a safe school. You're not going to get into Cornell or to Colgate. You have wonderful grades. You're at the top of your class, but those are out of your league. You have to be realistic. You probably won't even get to Binghamton or Albany or what." I said, "Okay, no problem. But I'm not applying to city schools." Done. So fast forward to that, March, April, boom, letter comes in. My mother, nosy as she is, opens it up first. I get home, everybody's crying. What was you crying about? "Oh, you got your letter of acceptance, you're going away. First one to go away to college, and you're leaving 5 hours. Have you lost your mind?" Right. "Oh, I'm seeing you, bye, I'm going." I was able to take it and do this rub it in the face of my of that gentleman who said, Jeanette was happy as can be. And Jeanette was always in touch, and she said, "You're going to Colgate. You're going to be at Colgate. Don't worry, you're Colgate material." But at the same time, the world is not a good place. We've got a lot of racism going on. We're 12, 13 years outside of Martin Luther King being killed, Bobby Kennedy being killed. We're like 20 years from JFK being killed. So people think we're in a good place, but we're not. because I always used to measure it by now when I think back, I measured about what I saw on television. Okay. And what I saw on television was, they were great shows, but good times. What was the family poor? African American living in the projects. Forget about there being some Spanish people on the shows. We weren't looking at that. You know, we were looking forward to see Archie Bunker every day acting his racist way, and we were all happy at that. You know, we were looking at a family of 6 children, the Brady Bunch, and they wasn't looking like my family, but they had all these things. They came together so kumbaya-ish, right? You know, and that happened. And then there was another issue I was dealing with. I was dealing with my sexuality. I knew that I had a sexuality, not issue, but that I was different. And I hung out with all those kids that were a little different, even if we weren't saying the words, because the words weren't as easy as saying them today. And blessed that I am in my family, I had 3 lesbian aunts on the family that used to take me to Puerto Rico every summer. So one of my aunts, who was very instrumental in my life, would always take us on the weekends where my father didn't know, and stuff like that. And she always guided us, and she was a lesbian. And, you know, my mother was okay with the situation, with everything that was happening. Some of my family wasn't, but I have to say that I had one of the most supportive families, that I always say, God bless me with something, because I remember being at Colgate, you know, 82, and so many, as much as the white community accepts everything, so many of the women that I would speak to who were lesbians were excommunicated from their families. And so to know that I could go home every summer and my family was supportive, not all of them, but that my mother and my brothers were supportive of me, was very important. So we had sexuality issues. We had those people who, you know, the gays are doing this. And then we're coming up, 1980, I pick up a magazine, Omni. It was a science magazine, and I used to read it faithfully. I was a sophomore in high school. In one little corner, there was an article of about 5 sentences about this new disease that was starting to trend, that was only being found in homosexual men and had ties to the rhesus monkey in Africa. And that would be the beginning of what I did not know would be a future of AIDS. But I had read about it in 1980. This 16-year-old kid. And I even said to my mother, Mom, look, they're saying the gays have a disease now. She's like, oh, please shut up. Just put that magazine, put the magazine. I gotta buy it. This month's Omni. So we have, economically, the country is in a disaster. Ronald Reagan, and if you go back to any of the maroon newspapers and stuff at Colgate, Ronald Reagan was giving out free cheese, and I used to go around protesting everyone they were bringing on the right wing at Colgate and saying, we don't need free cheese, our people need jobs. So we had the economics, we have AIDS coming upon us. We're also in a place, because this will be instrumental my last year at Colgate, we're also in a funny place where it was 83 would make it 20 years that Nelson Mandela had been in prison for being outspoken about apartheid. So the conversation of apartheid was always behind our minds and stuff like that. So really, there was so much going on outside and within myself that I don't know if Colgate was the brightest part to go once I got there, but it was the place I was. And I had to start learning how to fit into this new place.
Wow. So thank you for all of that. So give us a sense then of this transition. So one, are you part of the OUS program, well, the Scholars Program at that time? You come up during Scholars Summer?
Yes. I come up during Scholars Summer. There's, believe it or not, as much as people would say, oh, you're big mouth and radical. I was very shy, very quiet. I never knew what it was to stay up late. And I tell people this story all the time. I get to Colgate. I have a roommate. I never shared a room with anyone. So now I have a roommate. And I don't know anybody. A couple of people had gone that knew each other. I don't know anybody that's going to Colgate. There's no one here and I'm 5 hours away. And I go to have lunch on this one day. And I used to come in, go to my room, do my studying, and everybody was doing all-nighters, and I'm quietly a week into this in the summer, and I put my tray. They used to have these carts. You put your tray in. I put my tray in, and all the dishes fall and everything breaks. And what do we do when we break dishes at Colgate back then? Everyone stands and applauds you. Ooh, I was like, oh my God, can the world end right now? I go back to my room. One of the counselors says, don't worry, it's going to be all right. It happens to everyone. That's the way we react to this. I come back to dinner, and may she rest in peace, my dear friend, Aretha Jones.
Oh, yeah.
Says to me, you don't sit alone when we eat anymore. You sit with us. And we became, Aretha Jones was my best friend at Colgate.
Wow.
And we just always were together. There was someone else, Lourdes Liz. I don't know if you guys ever heard of her. She doesn't really come back to Colgate. And John Ing was in that class, Donovan, and Richie Rivera. Richie Rivera. That's why when we always go to reunion, we're always together, Rich and I.
Yeah.
So we're then I got into what Colgate was going to be all about. We were doing the hangouts, the all-nighters, the having fun, studying, making sure everybody was successful. And suffrage summer went by. Was it hard? It was difficult. It was a difficult time. You had to manage being away from home. You had to manage school. Colgate's not the easiest place. Not you were the top of your class when you were in high school. And in your school, and now you're at the bottom here because we didn't. I don't know about now, but we didn't know how to write. Supposedly, they said at that time, and we didn't know how to do this, and we didn't know how to do that. And so, and then we come back in September, and I wind up living in Harlem Renaissance. But I started off at Bryan Complex. Somebody I had met at Suffrage, their roommate left. So she said, why don't you move in with me? I said, sure. So I get into Harlem Renaissance. Aretha's there, Kirsten Dillard, all my friends that I'm friends with in my summer are there. And I'm like, oh, I'm out of this place, bye. And we get to Harlem Renaissance, and the world is an amazing place. But I'm dealing with the fact that I don't know what community I belong to. Because I'm not African American. I am Puerto Rican, and we have African American, we have Spanish, we have this. And I don't know which one I belong, because everything was always said to be, everything was black and white. So, and then on the side where nobody's knowing about it, I'm dealing with my sexuality too. And I don't even know where to find that community. So I got to bury that community. That community cannot exist for me at all at Colgate because there was no coming together. So I had to pick the ones I wanted to be with. And I wanted to be with my African American and Hispanic community. And that's what I chose while I was at Colgate.
Fascinating. How was the transition? Well, first, where's HRC at that time? Are they still on the Hill? They're still on the Hill. Okay.
They wouldn't go down the hill until my senior year.
Okay.
When the HRC was moved to Bryan Complex.
Yes.
Got it. So it was in East Hall for the first 3 years.
Yeah. Yes.
So since we've had Eric on and he's told the story, I'm curious to hear your perspective on what's the vibe of the campus in regards to HRC, like from a student of color perspective, if you can remember, like how was it perceived, but then even the mainstream community, how was it perceived?
For the students of color, we were just having our community together. We were just together as a community. We were there to support each other, to help each other, to not become that statistic. Because I know to me, I never wanted to be that statistic once I found out that the statistics are that I probably wouldn't make it past sophomore year. We just decided we can't have that. So we were there to help each other, to support each other, to have a place where we felt we belong. The rest of the campus, you guys always sitting together. And look, even when you went, you had to travel down to the student union to go to eat. So cardiac kill was a reality. Okay. And so, when we got there, of course, we all sat together because we all knew each other. So people don't understand that part of, if you go into a place and you know each other, are you not going to go to the people you know when there are 500 other people you don't? So it's not that you're trying to sit all together, it's you're going to your friends. It just happened to be that our friends look like us. And you all don't look like us, and you were trying to understand why we did that. And then you were saying, oh, you see, they do it here, but they do it outside as well. So we weren't seeing, Colgate had difficult times with us back then. In 82, 83, they had hard times with us. I mean, I know who it was and I know the situation, but my year when we got to Colgate, one of our classmates, the woman said, it was two women, one was the African American, one was a white woman, and she said, I don't know what it is to be with Black people, so I'm not staying here. And they moved her. They moved the African American woman out. So we had things like that going on. I mean, people were into, it was a Republican campus, for sure. For sure. But at the same time, we had Angela Davis coming up, and Petey Thomas, and so we had a lot of good things that were going on, but they always saw it as though we were trying to alienate ourselves from the rest of the campus.
It's funny that those two individuals you mentioned visited while you were there, because they also visited when I was at Colgate. I actually had a chance to introduce Angela Davis at one of our student forum, and I have photos with and Petty Thomas when he came up and did a reading about Down These Main Streets and talked and met with us. And at that time, it was La Residencia Hispánica, and it was just to know that they were up there while y'all were up there too. It's like they were making their rounds. They were doing their thing.
I mean, Angela came with the big afro. I don't know what it was. It's probably tamed by the time, because at the end, she, but she was amazing.
When she came to speak at our campus, she had dreads.
Like it was dreads, yeah.
Okay, yeah. She had the big I mean, she was amazing. Petey Thomas, I think we had him up there twice. With Unidad, we had him there once, and with Spanish House, we had him there once. So that's where we were. That's where the world was. That's where we was. That was what was going on, and we were always being looked upon through a microscope. Like, when are you gonna mess up? When are you gonna do something? Why are you sitting here? You're getting this free ride. Which none of that was true.
None of it.
Okay. It was not, we were there because we did the work just like everyone else. Just our parents couldn't afford to send us to those private schools.
When you look at your Colgate experience with all of that, the academics, the social adjustments, the personal development, what do you sort of kind of classify as your accomplishments or highlights or points of success by your own criteria?
After Colgate?
No.
During the 4 years at Colgate, yeah, the 4 years there.
I mean, becoming involved, making sure that I left a better place than I arrived at. So, and that was instrumental by having interviewing all the candidates that would take on, that were candidates for the position of the African American position in terms of the African American Studies position, which we then chose Manning Marable at the time. So I was one of the students that was on that committee. I also made sure that wanted to make sure there were enough Latinos on there in terms of the faculty. So we did that. Am I proud of what I'm going to say next or not? Yeah, maybe I am. I used to go to George Langdon my senior year. I used to go to breakfast with him almost every other day or every other week when he had the president's breakfast that students can go and voice their opinion. And I used to go there just to taunt him about why don't we have more African Americans, Hispanics, I'm leaving, and how many. He would leave that year and become the president of the Museum of Natural History in New York. I said, I wonder if I should go visit him, have breakfast with him there too, so he wouldn't forget. So I think it was important for me to have gone through the things that I did to know that I needed to leave a better place for the kids, the students who came, for you guys who came after. I didn't want the people to have to experience some of the things we had to experience. I didn't want women of color to have to go to a women's studies class and constantly say, where are the African American and the Latino women? Because I went and I did it with Aretha Jones, and we were like, this curriculum doesn't cover African American or Latino women. Can you get me one book about them? Because I can name a couple. So we needed to grow. I needed to grow. I grew. I became politically aware that, you know what, the assimilation that my grandmother was doing was not where I was going ever. Okay, because that was not going to happen for me. I needed to be there. I knew that I would have to take my fight outside of Colgate. I knew that when my senior year, we took over the administration building so that Colgate would divest from
South Africa.
South Africa. So they were using our scholarship monies and monies that were being given to students scholarship. They were investing that money in South Africa so they can make the most and the best on their returns, then offer scholarships to students. Well, you couldn't offer me a scholarship that you were taking from the racist ways and the injustice that were occurring in Johannesburg. So those were the things that we did. And we, I had support of faculty at Colgate. I had wonderful support. Rhonda Levine was my world. I mean, Rhonda Levine was my advisor. She, she's retired now, so I don't care what I say. She would tell me what was going on. She would educate me on the things that were going on, and I'd go out there and implement that kind of stuff. So she was a great asset to our community. If it wasn't for Rhonda, we don't get Manning Marable, we don't get Lourdes Rojas, we don't get a lot of people who were at Colgate.
So I take it you were a SOAN major.
Yes. Yes.
So
I don't like to say SOAN, I only like to say sociology.
Yeah, me too.
Sociology, not the anthropology part.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I was going to ask, Manning Marable comes when in your time there?
Manny Marable was there my junior and senior year.
Tell me about, because he leaves maybe our freshman year, like he leaves pretty early in our tenure.
Yeah.
Help listeners get a sense of who he was on that campus and kind of the role he played.
So Manning gets to Colgate. He is definitely too radical for Colgate.
They ain't ready. They ain't ready.
And I think more than Manning, his wife Hazel, she is, forget it. She's wearing combat boots with a dress or a long skirt or something. They're just not ready for this. I mean, Manning is just, you all know, to the left of everyone, except for people like Rhonda Levine. They were courageous in the SOAN department to have hired him first, so that the African American Studies program would come under SOAN, not poli-sci, because the poli-sci department did not want him. See, people don't know these insights. We got him into the SOAN department. And Manning is teaching us, Manning's waking up in us that dormant, quiet part that we just want to explode with. And he's teaching us the insights of Nelson Mandela. He's teaching us, you know what? You can't be a racist because you're Black. But then white people out there, they're racist. For us to be able to explain that to others and say, the oppression that they impose upon us is what makes them a racist, not the fact that we're of different colors. So it was there. It was all African American and Hispanic students in his classes for a while. And if you're required to take the class because it fell under one of those requirements, then you'd get a couple of them, but not a lot of times. And as he progressed, and he told his story, and he really got involved with the students and we always knew, you're lucky that he was even there part of your tenure, because when we interviewed him and we saw his credentials and we were able to discuss this with the faculty that was on the committee, we understood that Colgate was not a place for him. That it was really a hard place for any. At that time, we called ourselves minorities. And then we went on to people of color 2 years later after I got there. So people of color were not going to survive at Colgate, not in Hamilton, New York. And so we, I used to say, how long do we get him for? How long do we get him for? He lasted longer than I really thought he would. He was too radical for the campus. He was. That under the tenure of George Langdon, he was hired, says a lot for the universities. But was he respected? He was, because he was a scholar. He wrote so much, and factual writings, that's something he's making up because he had a lot of insights. He grew up, I don't know if you guys know, very, very well. He was from money.
Oh no.
Manny Marable had tennis courts and everything, and grew up money, and then became radicalized as he went on in his academia. So it was a place that we were able to see someone so successful and so wonderful who could relate to us and was older than us and could teach us to move on. And so he inspired me as well to be able to say, we got to leave this place better for the next ones. And I hope that we did for when you guys got there. And I hope that then you guys have left it better for the next ones.
Yeah, there's so many similarities in just the philosophies that are being passed down. Even those mantras of, you can't be racist, or this idea that leave this place better, or take care, all of these things that you don't know where they come from. You're just accepting the blessings. The good thing about us doing these conversations is we really can connect some of these dots and see how the 70s were looking after the 80s and it's just like bam, bam, bam. People are just passing it on, this culture of, if you're in this community, this is how we get through this. Tried and tested. So one last question before we go to break. You graduate in 86, same time around Alumni of Color organization is created. What's your memory, or tell us that story of the why, the how, just what do you remember about that?
Leroy Potts and I were good friends at Colgate. We still are good friends. Leroy comes up with this idea, and him and I actually speak about it with James Grooms as a freshman. We were the three that actually spoke about this together. And Leroy said, I said, Leroy, it's a great idea. It's really a great idea. We need an alumni to see where we're going. Now, we had nothing. We had people that came back, but we didn't have that connection the way it is now, what I see now. And so Roy says, I want to do this. Maybe it'll go nowhere. I said, it's a great idea. I think we need it. I think we need to be a part of it. And he flies. He flies. And then I leave Colgate, and not because I had a bad experience, but I just need to find myself within my own community back home. It was hard leaving Colgate. So I have to go back now in this place where I've got to go live with my mother again, which I adore my mother. I've got to go be with a brother who's 14 now. There were so many things that I've got to do, and I've been independent now for 4 years, and now I've got to go back to where I came from. And it was hard. And I guess in some way I was angry. I didn't want to come back to Colgate because I really loved being at Colgate. It was difficult, don't get me wrong, it was very hard. But I still loved that whole academic learning, that whole fighting, that whole wanting to do something to make a difference. And so I thought that the alumni color was a great thing, but I did not become involved.
Wow. Okay. So we're going to stop right there, take a pause, and come back to finish up part 2 with Minnie after we take a break for our sponsor. So this episode is sponsored by Hope Murals. Hope Murals is a nonprofit that provides adolescent youth with an interactive experience of creative expression via an urban arts platform that stimulates both mental and physical development. Please visit their website at www.hopemurals.org to learn more and find ways you can support the work they do. Welcome back. Welcome back. This is part 2 of After Gate Season 2. We are here with Minnie Roman, class of 1986, and looking forward to finishing up the conversation and learning more about her story. But before we do that, let's make sure we thank our sponsor. You just heard Hope Murals, all they're doing to help our youth as they expose them to urban arts, help them with their development. Check them out, hopemurals.org, and on social media at Hope Murals. Show them some love. Show our network some love. The Defy Life Network at godefylife.com. Show them some love. They got some really good content on that site. We also have the network has a podcast hub. You can check the podcast hub, defylifepods.com. You can find a lot of other dope podcasts on that network as well. So as we jump into the second half, Minnie, I really would love for you to touch on a subject that you touched on a little bit in the first half. When I talked about remembering you on a Zoom or reflecting on that, the topic of the experience for an LGBTQ person was the Zoom conversation. And it has really been an amazing journey for students who are LGBTQ, right? So the journey is something I would love for you to talk about. Give us a sense of what it is like from your perspective, from when you were there to what you're hearing the experiences now, because there's been amazing progress. I'd love for you to talk about it.
So you're right. First, I want to say that there has been amazing progress, even though some students say, oh, not enough. Getting to Colgate, being LGBTQ, and saying, what do I do with this? As much as I love my African-American community and my Hispanic community, we are not the most, we at that time, we suffered from homophobia severely. And I never felt comfortable as coming out and tell that people can tell, you know what? Different shapes for different folks and whatever it was, but I knew that that was something that could not come out. And so during that time, it was a time where hiding it was okay because I wanted people to accept me. Now, Aretha Jones didn't know about it. We went to Puerto Rico. We stayed with my aunt who is a lesbian. And that's when I came out to Aretha. And Aretha was like, I don't care, I accept you, you're my friend. I just don't want it to be difficult for you at Colgate. I said, it's okay. I'm good. Everything I'm doing, I'm good. I left Colgate knowing that, this is weird, Colgate, and having to deal with all these issues about my sexuality at Colgate, but not with my family, because my family accepted it, but I was concerned about being accepted by others. First time that I was concerned about, I used to be like very much either you take it or you leave it. That's who I am. But for this, it was a little more because I had heard of a lot of incidents on campus. People getting beat up, people getting hit and hurt and stuff like that. So it wasn't something. And the other problem I had was that the female community and the male community in the white community, in the Caucasian community, did not come together ever. So LGBT white men had their separate things, LGBTQ white women had their separate things, may none of them ever come together. And I had a problem with that because I loved my brothers, Latinos and African American. I loved my sisters. I wanted us all to party together. And when I used to come home to party at the Palladium or any of those places, we all party together, but we couldn't do that at Colgate. If you were LGBTQ and you were part of the community, so I chose that was not a part. Because just because I am a lesbian, I do not hate men. And that was something back then that people, oh, you're like that because you hate men. No, just who I am. And as I've seen this go on at Colgate over the years, it's just gotten better and better. It's just been like, wow, you can be out at Colgate. More of the African American community. When I go back and I visit, it's like, oh, I'm a lesbian. Oh, I'm bi. Oh, I'm like, whoa. I said, somebody, I'd give anything. And then when I heard they had what is it, gay studies or LGBT studies, I'm like, I went to Colgate at the wrong time. I was born in the wrong century. Oh my God, what is this? You people don't even realize what you have. Women's studies was big for us. And then the pandemic happens. And Veronica McFalls happens, which I knew at Colgate, loved her at Colgate, and reaches out to me and says, would you be on the panel? Sure. What else do I got to do? I'm sitting at home in the pandemic and it's online. We don't have to go to Colgate. Okay. And it's about LGBT then, now, and whatever in the future. And there are, so the first, it was a long time, it was a long week of it. And the first episode was about Drag 101. And I was like, what does that mean? Colgate, Drag 101 at Colgate? Okay, so 3 people get on. They're actually transforming themselves on the screen as we're like, the 3 of us are here. They're transforming themselves, like, and they're doing a show.
Wow.
And they're like, oh yeah, we had drag queen shows up on the campus. I won't mention the people I call because I don't out people like that, but I called a couple of people that were at Colgate and I said, would you believe that they have Drag Queen 101 and that they were doing shows? And they were like, you're lying, Minnie. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm telling you, I have it here. I saw it. And then I come on. It was crazy. I was like, no, you're lying. No. Then I come on to do my whole thing and we spoke and I saw what it was in the 70s. I saw what it was in the 80s. And then I saw what it was in the 90s and where it's gone to now. And the acceptance is so amazing. And that our communities have accepted and nurtured and have decided that we still are all one. And that is the beautiful thing.
No doubt.
And I think that's something that we should truly applaud because yes, sexuality and race are not the same, But if you're accepting one thing, you have the potential then to be an environment that accepts everything. Is it perfect? No. Are there always going to be issues? Of course. But that is such a great thing. And I would give anything to be at Colgate right now and tell somebody, what did you major at Colgate? Oh, LGBTQ studies. I want to be 20 again, 18, and just do that. And I see how people on Zooms and they're running our organizations. Oh yes, my wife, my girlfriend. I'm like, my boyfriend, my husband. I'm like, wow, I can now say my wife. Thank you, God, for that. So I think we've come a long way in terms of that. We can't stop the fight, especially in the times we're living right now, because everyone's trying to take something away from us. But that I have seen that transition is amazing to me and gives me a lot of hope. And to see that Colgate has the first LGBT president is an amazing thing. And he's a wonderful, Brian Casey is a wonderful human being.
Yeah. So that panel was very powerful. And there were people on there that I was on campus with at the same time. And to at least to my awareness, they were not out. And so as you talk about how unaccepting and how people had to hide, you know, I was pretty sure, but you never know for sure unless you know for sure. But at the time, you know, I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure. And, you know, I do remember thinking at the time, like, how hard that walk must have been. I mean, I'm someone where someone came out to me as a teenager. So I'm 16 when a very, very close member of my family lets me know, hey, Alvin, I'm gay. And so I came to Colgate with that awareness and empathy to a certain extent for the experience. But I think for me, it was more about not making their life harder than really being an advocate and an ally for their experience and everything being everything. But thank you for sharing that, and thank you for sharing your perspective. What I would like to talk to you now about is you graduate Colgate 1986. If you could walk us through what's life like after you graduate professionally, like give us a sense of those different stops in your career from graduation to how do you get to be the person you are now?
Okay, so I graduated from Colgate. I don't know what I want to do. I do know what I want to do. I want to be a police officer. And after wanting to be a doctor, I want to be a police officer. I take the police officer exam. What happens? I pass. My mother, typical mother, begs me, don't do this. You went to Colgate. Do not do this. I think about it. What else am I going to do? I don't know what else I want to do. I decide, okay, I'll put that on the burner. And I'm gonna go and be a teacher. I got an idea. I'm gonna go teach. Take the test, pass the test, get your temporary license, go on to teaching. So I say to my mother, okay, I don't get to get a gun, but I'm still gonna go work in the South Bronx, in the heart of the South Bronx, Banana County. So I'm gonna go. You know, I'm not going to be a police officer, but I'm going to do this. And the police department did go out and recruit me because you have to figure 1986, how many women had college degrees wanting to enter and pass the test. So they were recruiting me all the time for like 4 years after I said no. So I wound up getting a job, South Bronx, a school where all the abandoned buildings were around us. Everything is collapsing. Everyone is low income. I was placed in a classroom that was a 4th grade Gates class. The reason they called it a Gates, not after Colgate, but they called it a Gate is because all the kids in there were about 14 years old and would not be allowed to go to the 5th grade because they didn't pass the reading exams.
You said they were 14?
They were 14 in the 4th grade. So New York City Public Schools, the wonderful as they are, had placed this gate on them and were like, poof, lock them in. So I get there, they tell me, oh, you're gonna go to this class. All you're gonna do is teach math and reading. Okay. 17 kids, 17 little misfits who became my 17 angels and made my life the difference. Made a difference in my life from the day I started to the day I went to the day I finished my career. I'll never forget them. Some of them are not alive. Some of them have been killed. But they came in typical of what you see on those movies, laying on the chairs, laying on the desk. We're going to do this. What do you think you're going to teach us this year? You're not going to teach us anything. We'll be here next year. Okay, we're going to learn. And they did. And I was successful in getting 5 kids in January to go on to the 5th grade because they went up to the grade level. At the end of the year, no one was left back. Everyone was sent on to the appropriate grade level.
Nice.
Wow.
I stayed at this school for 10 years in the South Bronx. I ran up the crack houses to get the kids out. I ran down the crack houses. I went to find you if you weren't coming to school. I took you to ride Playland where you thought that was, in another country. I took you to the movies if you did well in the class. I did everything that should not be done as a teacher. Don't catch yourself in the car alone with kids. Don't do this. But at that time, I didn't care. I was young. I had the energy. I was single, nothing. I was going to do for these kids. I was going to make a difference in their life. Once again, it was that whole nurturing thing. I needed to make a difference in their lives. And at that school, I was there for about 10 years. It was time to go on to another position. I went on and I wound up I did get the position, but I wound up not taking the position because of a whole bunch of political things. So that doesn't even have to be discussed. And I had gone to Catholic school. I did not enjoy Catholic school. Teachers were abusive and racist and everything, and Spanish and Black children should never have gone to Catholic school during that time. They were laughed at and all. It was only for Irish kids and Italian kids. And I decided, you know what? I think I need to go teach at Catholic school. I'm not going to make the money, but I'm going to make the difference in the lives of these kids. I'm not going to let anybody treat one of these kids again the way. So I get to the Catholic school. I'm a teacher for about 2 years. I was often an assistant principal's position. I take the assistant principal's position, and the Monsignor and I become very good friends. And he says, I'm getting rid of the principal. You're my new principal. I'm like, are you kidding me? During this time, I have to tell you that the politics were Obama was coming into office soon. And my first year as principal, he nominates the Supreme Court Justice a Latina, a Puerto Rican woman, right from the community that I am the principal now of the school. And she's the alumni of my school.
Oh, wow.
And so the New York Times, as I'm here sitting with you guys, I'm looking at the articles that hang in my office. The New York Times comes that summer to interview me. What do we feel about this person having sat in these seats here? And her mother really couldn't afford for her to go to Catholic school, but she did, and she was from the projects, all of that wonderful stuff. She gets appointed, and she's going to come back to the community, and she's going to come to my school and meet the kids and be there. And I'm going to have to present her to the staff. She's going to attend mass. We're going to do all of this, present it to the kids. She wants to address the children and all. So that all happens. We become very good friends with the Secret Service. It was like I appeared on 2020 with her. Just a lot of things that occurred during this time. Never losing sight of the fact that I was there for these kids and I was making a difference in everyone. I mean, I don't have a kid that would not say, wow, you were the best, because they even contact me at this time. So go on, Supreme Court Justice, that was probably one of my greatest things. She comes 2 years later, 2013, my school is one of those schools that was closed at the Archdiocese. And we move on, and that's a very difficult thing for me because now I have to leave these 180 families. We have to close the school. Where do we send them? My own family members were attending the school as well, my nephew. So it was a devastating time. It was a deep depression. During that time, I also, in 2009, right after the Supreme Court Justice comes in, I get diagnosed with MS, and life starts to change. I meet the most wonderful person in my life in 2007. We get married in 2012. Once again, I'm back to the point of Colgate. If anybody at the Archdiocese finds out I am married to this woman, I get fired on the spot. And we're looking at 2012. My wife is the carefree person and says, I don't care if you get fired. We're doing this. Okay, we do. We move on, all these things. They closed my school 2013, a year after I'm married. I don't know what I want to do with my life. I go into a deep depression. I do not know at all what I'm going to do. I'm going to the point where I might just want to stop living at this point. I get a job as the instructional specialist, which is right under the superintendent in schools. I start to make an impact on the lives of teachers who are educating students. That's how I come in touch with Pascal and revisit my friendship with Teresa, and things start to happen. I had a possibility of being appointed as the superintendent, but I got really sick and couldn't do that either. And then I say to myself, okay, they tell me, listen, you're the best troubleshooter in the world. The kids love you, the families love you. Let's do this. We need you to take over a school, put it back on the right track. And I say, okay. I started my career in 4th grade. My best years in my life were teaching students. You know why? I made an impact on those little minds. I helped them to change. I became them. I knew about the sneakers they wore. I knew about the video games they played. I knew about the computers they were doing. We learned everything together. We taught them how to read. I taught them how to read and write and everything, but I also taught them how to be a respected person. And if you respect me, I respect you. And I had a great communication with my students. So as I decide, I don't like being an administrator. I hate it actually at this point. I hate adults. I don't like them. I only like children. And I used to tell parents, I don't like adults. I only like children. I know it sounds weird, but that's all I can relate to is children. You guys are too complicated. While I'm at this school that I took over, I put it on track and stuff. I say to them, someone's coming out of retirement. I want a position here. And I go back to the 4th grade to teach. Wow. And I end my career in the 4th grade. I loved every single minute of it. It was the best experience. And to know that I get letters every day and kids texting me and calling me and saying, I miss you. Can you come? One kid said to me, can you do like Michael Jordan and come out of retirement and then you go back and and when I graduate from the school, you come back and then you can leave them. And that's okay. That's what we can do. No, I can't do that, but okay. But this was the most rewarding career I ever had in my life. I believe that I gave back to the children and I protected. During my tenure, I had people who were racist. I had people who were abusive to students. I had people who were horrible. And you know what? I stuck up for every single kid because God says we're good to our angels and they are the ones that will inherit this earth. And that's what I truly believe. And I needed to make a difference the way I needed to take care of David, Angel, Ruth, James. I needed to take care of my Matthews, my Michaels, my Nicholas, my Sashas, my Anisha. So I needed to take care of those kids. And I did that for 31 years. And in the interim, I met the Supreme Court Justice who has invited me to her home, who has rolled out the car a bit for me, who The Secret Service gave me a badge, but I'm not going to go around like, what's his name, show my badge. I'm all right here. Okay. I can't even remember his name because he gets me crazy.
Herschel Walker.
Yeah, Herschel Walker, right. I'm not going to take out my badge and show about, oh, I have a Secret Service badge, because that is, if she's ever somewhere and I want to get in, I show the badge and they'll let me in. But I'm not a Secret Service person.
Got it.
You know, but it was good. It was an amazing feat, and I got to do and protect the kids that I wanted to protect. I needed to go and make the Catholic schools a better place, and I believe I did, because they needed taken care of.
That's an amazing just sort of tribute to the journey of an educator, and that has come full circle, because I don't think I've heard too many people have the opportunity, despite the fact that it was the ways that you rode and the circumstances of life that happened, that allowed you to come back and end where you started. That's pretty. As you're telling the story, I was thinking to myself, could I do that? I started my career as a high school teacher in an alternative school program where I had some special ones. Let's just say I'm 22 years old out of Colgate, and teaching 18 and 19-year-olds who are about to age out of the school system. And it was the hardest and the most fulfilling job I've ever had in my life. But yeah, could I do it now? I don't know. That's some bravery. That's some courage. I was like full of energy, but really did not know how deep I was in. But I just had the desire and love for these kids to give them a shot that nobody would give them. It's like I didn't know what I didn't know.
No,
but anyway,
it's true.
Yeah,
it's true. And I always loved the underdog.
Yeah, that's a good way.
I always loved the underdog. I hate to say it, but I don't believe that I had enough to offer to a gifted and talented student. But I had a lot to offer for that little runt. I had a lot of nurturing to give to that little runt that I needed to grow. But the gifted and talented kids, we used to say, and you're in education, so you would know, those kids were the ones you could put anybody. I could put this canister and it'll teach them how to learn. They'll become excellent. But it's that little, runt that we need to help. And those are the ones I've always been attracted to. Those are the ones that just push me to another level.
That's what's up.
Right. With that being said, if you had a chance at 82, when you're graduating Lehman High School.
Hold up. You paused on my end. I'm not sure.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's rewind. Rewind. So, like, am I good now? Am I coming okay? If you had a chance to go back in time and back to 82 and reconnect with the mini Minnie, and with what you know now, give her some words of wisdom, give her some advice. What would that sound like? And what would be the same for the Minnie graduating Colgate in 86, about to enter the world? What would be the words of wisdom you would share with her?
In 82, I would say, don't sell yourself short. Be true to yourself and who you are. In 1986, I would say there are going to be a lot of challenges, but believe me, you are going to face each and every one of them, and you're going to make a difference.
Okay, hear ye.
That's dope. That's dope.
Yeah.
So, final question is really just an opportunity for you to plug, share any initiative, any opportunity or organization that you want to put out into our Aftergate universe as a way of getting the listeners, the audience, this community, an opportunity to support anything you'd want to put on the table.
I don't have any organizations that I really would say that right now I'm working with. I do my own things for like MS that I contribute to, and cancer and autism awareness, because believe it or not, I have MS. My wife is a 20-year cancer survivor, breast cancer, and my son is a autistic savant. So those are the organizations and the things that are dear. And when we go out there, that's what we look to help in whichever way possible. And I believe that we should all have that opportunity to either help someone in that situation, see, and not judge others. So that I have organizations, I always say, I've given myself, I've given to cancer, I've given to, because I gave my wife and I gave my son to author. But that we have that I have an organization, I can't say. I do have an organization that, no, it's not an organization. I do belong to an auction place called, I'm going to plug them right now, Whatnot. They're online. They're a live streaming auction auction. And I actually auction what I know the people on the podcast won't see it, but I was a Funko Pop collector and a toy collector and retro video games. So that's what I do twice a week. I auction on this thing, on this Whatnot website. And there are times where we do auctions for autism awareness, breast cancer, cancer survivors, and MS. So anybody that wants to join, it's an app. It's called Whatnot. And you look for Spanky63.
Hey.
Okay.
Spanky. Okay. Any final words? Any final words before we jump off?
My final words is, I am so honored to be in the presence of you two gentlemen, and that I am so happy that the nurturing I did to my little ones also touched your lives. So that means that I've touched you.
Yes.
You've touched me in doing what you're doing, and you need to keep these stories going because we need to hear them.
Blessings. Amen.
Yes, ma'am.
Amen.
Yes. And the church said, amen.
Amen.
It has been awesome. I'm like I said earlier, it has happened in the true way it was supposed to happen. And that has been the essence of this podcast from the beginning. Things just happen the way they're supposed to happen. So this has been another episode of Aftergate Season 2. Thank you to our guests. Thanks to our listeners. Aftergate is always powered by the Defy Life Network. So make sure you check us out in the future for more dope podcasts. Find us on any of your favorite podcast streaming platforms. Make sure you subscribe or like when you come across our show so that you get alerts when we release on Saturdays at 1300 hours. So remember, Colgate of your day is not the Colgate of today, and it's certainly not the Colgate of the future. Peace, family.
Yes, sir.
Shh. You hear that? Listen closer. That, my friend, is the deafening sound of focus. It drowns out all the useless noise that can clutter the moment. Naysayers don't exist. Haters? Smaters? The peanut gallery? Who's that? When you in your zone, all that noise and all that buzz is just elevator music. So, enjoy your journey, focus on your goal, and bask in the quiet roar that is progress. Because when it's your time to shoot that shot, spit that verse, or close that deal, the only voice that matters is yours. Defy Life.